Okay, so the first thing we want to do is go to our Azure portal. So you will have to have Azure readily accessible. Now, the one thing I'll say too is I am going to cover how to do all these things, but we're not going to do a deep dive into Azure. There's many tutorials available online on YouTube if you want to learn more about Azure. But the things we're going to cover are just going to be enough to get us up and running with our use case. Our focus for this series is really going to be on flow and graph, but we do have to get our Azure app set up first, so we'll start there. So what you want to do, basically, once you're in Azure, you want to come down to your Azure Active Directory, okay, and you want to go to app registrations. Okay, so go there. Now, you can go to all apps. Now, I've already done this once, but yeah, basically you want to go to new application registration. And again, the way I learned to do this was just doing some other tutorials online, which are also available, and they're great. I'm not an absolute Azure master, but I can work my way through it enough to get to where I need to be. So that's kind of the main point of what we're trying to do here. So first, let's enter the name of the application. You know, you can call it whatever. We can call it flow graph demo. And then for this, we can just leave it as web app slash API. So for this sign on URL, this doesn't really matter so much because we are actually not going to be coming back to this URL, but we have to have something. So we'll just call it local host. Apparently I can't type. Slash flow graph demo. That should be fine. We get a check mark there. That's fine. Okay. So once that's done, you can go to your settings. And one last thing, that's that last property that we filled out, that URL, that is very important if you are developing your own app. Like if you're using React or Angular, what have you, to create some kind of custom application. In that case, it is important. So I just want to mention that because it's not that you would always skip over that part. It's just that in this case, we don't really need it. So we're just going to kind of enter in an arbitrary URL for that. Anyways, okay, so required permissions. We want to go to this section here. We do have one delegated permission already. We want to go to add. Okay, you're going to select the API. So we want to use Microsoft Graph. Select that. Okay, in this case, really, all we essentially need to do here is look at calendars. So for example, read and write calendars in all mailboxes, read calendars in all mailboxes. The permissions here get very granular. So in a production use case, you'd want to make sure that you nail down exactly the specific permissions that you need to check off. However, because we're just kind of doing a quick demo here, I'm just going to check off all of them. Again, you would probably never do this in an actual production use case. You'd want to narrow down exactly what you need, but because for it's a demo purpose, I'm just going to choose all of them. And just make sure you come up here to click grant permissions as well. And that'll take care of that. Okay, so now we have 67 roles. So I'll click done. Okay, great. So now we are going to use we're going to come down to key, and we're going to call this, let's just call it flow secrets. We'll call it flow graph secret. It doesn't really matter. You can call it whatever you want. You can call it Apple Moon Pie if you want to. It really doesn't matter. Expires in 1 year. Okay, so now when you save this, if you've watched any other tutorials on Azure, you want to make sure that you definitely copy this key because this will not come back. It's only visible once. So I'm just going to paste this into Notepad for now. Okay, let's make sure we can just copy this guy right into Notepad. So this is going to be our secrets right here. So we'll paste that there. Okay, so the other thing we're going to need is client ID and also tenant. So, okay, let's come back here. Okay, so that's now done. That's fine. We have our secret. That's all well and good. We can actually just come back here now. We can come to over to here. Okay, so if we just scroll over a bit, you see our application ID is going to be used for our client ID. So I'll just pop that in here. And the tenant, I mean, this is actually a test tenant, so I don't really care if I show the actual tenant um, value, but typically you would never want to expose that to anybody. And the tenant can be grabbed from, if you come back down to Azure Active Directory and then come down to properties. This is going to be your directory ID right here. So I'm going to copy this to clipboard. Okay, and then I'll bring this back over. So tenant. So we need our client ID, tenant, and our secret. So you want to make sure you have all three of these values because we'll need those later on. So that's really all we need to get going with this, and I will leave it there for now. And we're going to jump over to SharePoint next. See you in the next video.